I saved you some cake, Mr. The little girl said to the CEO alone at the table. It was late evening in the grand ballroom of the Hilton Hotel, filled with golden chandeliers, polished marble floors, and voices echoing with laughter. The annual charity gala was in full swing. Wealthy guests mingled, champagne glasses clinked, and waiters carried silver trays of desserts. But in the farthest corner of the room, where the light barely reached, sat Ethan Cole, a man who had everything the world envied, a self-made billionaire CEO, young, powerful, and untouchable in the eyes of others. Yet that night, he felt more broken than ever. He had built his empire, but along the way had lost something he could never buy back: his family, his joy, his humanity. The table before him was covered with untouched food, and his eyes were fixed on the swirling champagne inside his glass. Nobody dared to approach him. His aura screamed authority, but deep inside, he was a lonely man at the top of a mountain where the air was thin and cold. And then, a soft voice interrupted the silence. "I saved you some cake, Mr. A tiny girl said, placing a small plate on his table. Ethan lifted his head, surprised. In front of him stood a little girl, no older than 7, wearing a simple pink dress, her hair tied in 2 uneven pigtails. She wasn't part of the glittering crowd. Her shoes were worn, her smile innocent yet brave. She looked so out of place, yet she belonged more than anyone else in that cold, glamorous room. "Cake," Ethan muttered, his voice heavy. "Yes," she beamed. "Everyone was rushing for dessert, and I thought you might not get any, so I saved you a slice." He stared at the tiny piece of chocolate cake she'd placed before him. For some reason, his throat tightened. Nobody had ever saved him anything. For years, people only took from him his time, his energy, his trust. Yet here was this little girl, offering a piece of cake like it was the greatest treasure in the world. The encounter that changed him. Ethan leaned down. "What's your name?" "Lila," she replied proudly. "My mummy says it means night beauty." He smiled faintly. "Where's your mummy now?" Lila pointed to a young woman working near the kitchen door, a single mother who was serving drinks, not mingling as a guest. Ethan realized at once this child didn't belong to the wealthy guests. She belonged to the staff. Curious, he asked, "Why did you think I needed cake?" "Because," she tilted her head, studying him with wise eyes. "You looked sad. People who look sad need something sweet. Cake makes hearts feel better." Her words pierced him deeper than any corporate deal ever had. Ethan had spent years wearing masks, hiding his exhaustion behind power and wealth. Yet this child, in seconds, had read his heart. A growing bond that night. Ethan didn't return to his penthouse immediately. Instead, he sat with Lila, talking. She told him about her dreams, how she wanted to be a painter, how her mummy worked so hard, and how sometimes they didn't have enough money for birthday candles, so she just pretended to blow them out. Ethan listened, really listened for the first time in years. "Do you like being rich?" she asked suddenly. He hesitated. "I thought I did, but sometimes being rich means being empty." Lila scrunched her nose. "That's silly. You can be full again if you share. My mummy says sharing makes your heart big." Her words hit him like lightning. The transformation from that night on. Ethan couldn't forget the little girl with the cake. He started visiting the charity kitchen where her mother volunteered on weekends. Quietly at first, he helped funding meals, donating supplies, but more than money, he began serving alongside them, wearing an apron instead of a suit. The world began to notice the change. The ruthless CEO was now a man with softer eyes, a man who laughed with children, who sat on sidewalks listening to stories, who remembered that every fortune is empty unless it feeds a soul. For Lila and her mother, he became more than just a benefactor. He became family. He helped Lila with school, encouraged her dreams, and sometimes, after long boardroom meetings, he'd sneak away to eat cake with her, because she said cake tastes better when you don't eat it alone. The challenge, but not everyone supported his change of heart. Investors complained, employees whispered, and the media questioned his decisions. Why is the CEO wasting time with street kids? Why is he redirecting company funds to charities instead of expansion? One day, his board of directors threatened to remove him. They claimed he was tarnishing the company's image. That night, Ethan sat in his office, torn. For years, business was his battlefield. He fought for power, for profit. But now, his heart had a new compass, and he asked himself, what is success worth if it costs your soul? The next morning, he stood tall in front of the board. His voice was steady, his heart clear. "Success is not about how high we climb," he said, "but how many people we lift as we rise. If this company has no room for compassion, then it has no future with me." He walked out, ready to risk everything. The reward, to his surprise, the world applauded. News outlets picked up his story: the CEO who chose kindness over power. Investors who believed in ethical leadership came forward. The company thrived, not because of greed, but because of trust and humanity. And at the heart of it all was a little girl who once saved him a slice of cake. The final scene years later. At Lila's art exhibition, Ethan stood proudly in front of her first masterpiece. She had painted a picture of a lonely man at a grand table, with a little girl handing him a plate of cake. Below the painting was the title, "I saved you some cake." Mr. Ethan's eyes watered as he realized he had come to the gala that night with nothing but emptiness. But he left with something priceless: a family, a purpose, and a heart reborn. Message for the audience: sometimes the smallest act of kindness can save someone's life. True wealth is not measured in money or power. It's measured in love, compassion, and the lives we touch.